This story is titled, My Family Ditched Me from the Vacation I Paid For, so I cut them off, took my money back, and left them drowning in their own mess. Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Okay, this is going to be kind of a long post because there's a lot to unpack here. I've been sitting on this story for a while, trying to figure out if I should even share it. But after everything that went down last month, I need to get this off my chest. Maybe you guys can tell me if I'm the crazy one here. I guess I should start with some background about my situation. 3 years ago, my 34 male whole world basically fell apart when my wife Amy got sick. It happened so fast. One day we're planning our daughter Emma's third birthday party, and 2 months later, I'm sitting in a hospital room holding Amy's hand while she... Yeah, sorry, still not great at talking about this part. So suddenly, I'm a single dad to a toddler who keeps asking when mommy's coming home to read her bedtime story. Emma was way too young to understand what was happening, and honestly, I barely understood it myself. I was completely lost. You know that feeling when you're drowning, but everyone around you is just going about their day like everything's normal? That was my life for a while. I own this small property management company, nothing fancy, just some rental units I built up over the years. Back then, I was working insane hours trying to keep the business running while also being there for Emma. I'd be up till 4 a.m. dealing with tenant emergencies or paperwork, catch maybe 3 hours of sleep, then have to be up to get Emma ready for daycare. Sometimes I'd fall asleep at my desk and wake up to find drool all over important documents. Super professional, right? Here's the thing that still gets me. During all of this, my family was basically MIA. But honestly, that wasn't new. I'd been the ignored one in the family since I was a kid. My sister Mel was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong, the one who got all the praise and attention while I just kind of existed. If she so much as sneezed, my parents would act like she cured cancer. Meanwhile, I could be struggling, drowning, and they'd barely notice. So, when everything went to hell, I shouldn't have been surprised. My mom Beth would call occasionally to ask how we were doing, but it was always these short, awkward conversations that ended with, "Let us know if you need anything." Mel showed up exactly once with a casserole, stayed for like 20 minutes, then disappeared again, like she was doing her duty and checking off a box. And my dad? He sent a sympathy card. A freaking card. That was it. But then something interesting happened. My business started doing really well. Like, really well. I'd been working my ass off, and suddenly all these properties I'd invested in started paying off. The rental market in our area went crazy, and I found myself actually making some serious money for the first time in my life. And wouldn't you know it, that's when my family suddenly remembered I existed. Once they realized I had money, things got weird. Like, really weird. It started with small stuff at first. Beth, my mom, would call saying their water heater broke, or they needed new tires for their car. Basic emergency stuff that I didn't mind helping with because, they're family. But then it turned into this whole pattern I didn't notice until way too late. First it was, "We're a little short on the mortgage this month, can you help?" Then it became, "Your father and I are getting older. We shouldn't have to worry about bills at our age." Before I knew it, I was basically paying their mortgage every month, and Beth got real good at asking for it. She'd call just to chat about Emma, my daughter, tell me what a good son I was, then casually drop that they were struggling with bills again. Classic guilt trip stuff. My sister Mel was even worse, TBH. After her divorce, she was constantly talking about how she was going to lose her apartment, how Jake, her son, would have to change schools, how she couldn't afford daycare. So yeah, I started paying for Jake's daycare, then her car payments, then her phone bill. Every time I helped, she'd cry and say how grateful she was. But a week later, there'd be some new crisis she needed money for. The crazy part, they started acting like I owed them this money, like it was their right to get it. Mel would literally plan vacations or buy new stuff, then call me panicking because she couldn't pay Jake's daycare that month. And when I'd ask about the new iPhone she just posted about on Instagram, "Oh, that was a gift from a friend." Yeah, right. My dad was the only one who didn't directly ask for money, but he'd always back up Beth. "Your mother's really stressed about the bills," or "We didn't raise you to turn your back on family," which is pretty rich coming from the guy who barely showed up when Amy died. And get this, they'd use my Netflix, Hulu, and Spotify accounts, then complain if I ever changed the password without telling them. One time Beth called me at 11 p.m. because Grey's Anatomy wasn't working, and she needed me to fix it right away. Like, seriously? The more money I made, the more they expected. They'd see my business doing well and immediately start hinting about their own needs. Beth even started telling her friends I was their retirement plan. Found this out later from my aunt. They'd post on Facebook about their shopping trips or their new patio furniture, but whenever I was around, it was all, times are so hard, and we don't know how we'll manage. Looking back, I can see they were totally playing me, but they were smart about it. They'd always mix in just enough actual family stuff to keep me hooked. Beth would bring up memories from when I was a kid, or Mel would make sure Jake called me Uncle Kevin and made me birthday cards. It's messed up, but it worked. I kept thinking if I just helped them enough, maybe they'd actually start acting like real family. The only smart thing I did during this time was hiring Sarah as Emma's nanny. Man, I got so lucky with her. She's this amazing woman who just gets it, you know? She's patient with Emma, helps keep our crazy schedule organized, and actually cares about us as people. She's been more family to us than my actual family ever was. And the only person who tried to warn me was Sarah. She'd make these careful comments like, "Your mom calls a lot about money," or "It's interesting how your sister always has an emergency right after you get a big client." But I'd brush it off because I didn't want to see it. Sarah's actually the one who helped me start keeping track of how much I was giving them. Turned out to be way more than I realized. You know what's really messed up? While all this was happening, they never once offered to help with Emma. Like, my daughter lost her mom, and they couldn't even be bothered to babysit for a night so I could catch up on work. But they had no problem asking me to watch Jake whenever Mel wanted to go out with her friends. I actually sat down one night and added up everything I'd given them over the past 2 years. Want to guess the total? Over $50,000. $50,000. And that's not counting all the random stuff like groceries, gas money, or that time I paid for Beth's root canal. When I saw that number, I felt sick to my stomach. But I still probably wouldn't have cut them off if they hadn't pulled what they did. After all these emergencies and payments, things started getting interesting about 2 months ago. Beth calls me up all excited, which was weird because usually she only used her excited voice when she wanted money. But this time she was going on about how we should do this big family vacation to Naples, Florida. Said it would be good for all of us to spend time together, especially for Emma and Jake to bond as cousins. I'll be honest. At first, I actually thought it was a good idea. Emma had been asking a lot about real family lately. Kid's too smart for her own good sometimes. And I figured maybe this could be a chance to actually build some kind of normal relationship with everyone. Plus, Sarah had been telling me Emma needed more fun experiences, not just watching me work all the time. Beth said she'd take care of all the planning if I could just handle the costs. Said Ron had all these airline miles saved up, and Mel supposedly found some amazing hotel deal through her work. The total came to $7,500, which, yeah, is a lot. But for 5 adults and 2 kids for a week at a beach resort, didn't seem that crazy at the time. I offered to book everything myself since I'm pretty good at finding deals, but Beth got weirdly insistent about handling it. Said something about how I'm always so busy, and they wanted to take some burden off my shoulders for once. The whole planning process was kind of a mess. Beth kept being super vague about details. She'd talk about all these activities we were going to do. Beach days, this fancy water park, some boat tour. But whenever I asked about specific times or tickets, she'd just say, "Don't worry, we've got it covered." Mel was acting weird too. She kept forgetting to send me Jake's information for the plane tickets. I must have sent her Emma's details like 3 times because she kept saying she never got them. But then she'd post all these TikToks about packing and buying new swimsuits for the trip. Emma was so excited though. Man, I wish you guys could have seen her face when I told her about the beach. She'd never been to Florida before, and she was convinced she was going to see real mermaids. She begged me to take her shopping for new beach stuff. We spent like 2 hours in Target picking out the perfect swimsuit, and she found this unicorn beach bag she absolutely fell in love with. I'm talking full-on puppy dog eyes until I bought it. She wore it around the house for days, packing and repacking it with her beach essentials. Emma took it so seriously, like she was studying for a test or something. It was pretty cute. The week before the trip was weird, though. Beth kept changing the subject whenever I tried to nail down our actual schedule. And Mel was being super active in the family chat, posting about beach activities and stuff, but would go quiet whenever I asked about specific plans. I should probably mention that during all this, I was crazy busy with work. Had this huge new property deal I was trying to close, plus 3 different tenant issues I was dealing with. So maybe I wasn't paying as much attention to the details as I should have been. Sarah noticed, though. She kept giving me these looks whenever I talked about the trip, but I was too wrapped up in everything to really think about what that meant. 2 days before we were supposed to leave, I double-checked the flight time with Beth. She told me not to worry, Everything was set for Thursday morning, just get there in plenty of time. Then she started talking about how Emma and Jake were going to have so much fun building sandcastles together and how we could all have dinner on the beach, and wouldn't it be nice to finally have some real family time? You know what's funny? Even with everything that happened after, I still remember feeling kind of hopeful that night. Like maybe this vacation was going to be the thing that finally made us feel like a real family again. Emma was in bed surrounded by her packed bags. And I was sitting there thinking maybe I'd been too hard on them. Maybe things were finally going to change. But the night before our flight, everything started feeling off. I was up late dealing with this emergency maintenance call from one of my properties, because of course a pipe would burst the night before vacation. So around 11:30 p.m. I tried calling Ron to confirm our meeting spot at the airport. Straight to voicemail. Tried again at midnight. Same thing. Which was weird because Ron always has his phone on. He's one of those boomers who sleeps with it next to his pillow. 2 a.m., and I still couldn't sleep. Something kept nagging at me. I scrolled back through our family chat and noticed something weird. Nobody had actually confirmed any specific plans. Like, lots of talk about beach activities and stuff we do in Florida, but nothing concrete about actually getting there. Emma woke up around 3 a.m., too excited to sleep. Found her sitting in her room, wearing her new swimsuit over her pajamas, reorganizing her unicorn beach bag for probably the 100th time. She asked me if I thought Jake would want to build a huge sandcastle with her. My heart kind of broke a little because, well, you'll see. Beth finally texted at 5 a.m. Can't wait to see you all. Make sure you're there in plenty of time. Notice how she didn't specify when plenty of time was? Yeah. The whole drive to the airport, my phone was weirdly quiet. No messages in the family chat, no last-minute coordination texts, nothing. Even Emma noticed, asking why Grandma wasn't sending her usual morning kissy emojis. We got to the airport at 8:45 a.m., plenty of time before our supposed 10 a.m. flight. The departure board was the first thing I saw when we walked in, and flight, a 2847 to Naples, closed. I pulled out my phone and checked the family chat again. Still nothing. No messages, no updates. Just radio silence from the same people who had spent weeks hyping up this family vacation. I blinked at the board, my brain refusing to compute what I was seeing. Closed? That had to be a mistake. We were supposed to be on that flight. Emma tugged my hand, shifting on her feet. Daddy? Why did we stop? I forced myself to move. It's okay, sweetheart. Let's check at the counter. We made our way through the busy terminal. The woman behind the counter smiled. How can I help you? I gripped the edge of the counter like it was the only thing keeping me upright. I think there's been a mistake. I was supposed to be on flight NA2847 to Naples with my daughter, but I can't find our reservation. She nodded and started typing. Name? Kevin Ross. And my daughter? Emma Ross. More typing. More waiting. I'm not seeing any tickets booked under those names, she said slowly. Do you have a confirmation number? My stomach dropped. No, my mom said she was handling all the bookings. Her expression shifted. A mix of pity and something else. Something like recognition. Did she book it under a different name? She asked carefully. I gave her Beth's name. Nothing. Mel's name. Nothing. Ron's name. Still nothing. She hesitated, then gave me a look, one I'd seen before. The kind of look people give when they don't want to be the one to break bad news. Sir, she said, lowering her voice. I checked everything. There's no record of you or your daughter ever being booked on that flight. And it already took off. It felt like the ground tilted under me. I wanted to argue, wanted to believe this was just some glitch, that Beth had just forgotten to send the confirmation number, that this wasn't actually happening. But I knew. I knew the moment I saw the closed flight. I knew when the family chat stayed dead silent. They never booked us tickets. They simply left us behind. And what made it worse is that they proudly went with my money. I called Beth while shaking from rage. It rang twice before she finally picked up, and I swear to God, I heard waves crashing in the background and people laughing. Kevin, she answered in this overly cheery voice. How are you, honey? There was music playing somewhere behind her, and what sounded like Jake laughing. My stomach dropped. Where are you? My voice came out weird, like it wasn't even mine. Oh, we just got to the hotel. The beach is gorgeous. Too bad you missed the flight this morning. I literally stopped breathing for a second. What are you talking about? You told me the flight was at 10. There was this pause. Then she actually laughed, like genuinely chuckled. Oh, honey, you must have misunderstood. We left at 8. Didn't you get my message? I opened our WhatsApp chat right there in the middle of the terminal. No message. Nothing. But what I did see was a fresh photo Mel had just posted to the family chat. All of them on the beach. Beth, Ron, Mel, and Jake building a sandcastle. They looked so happy, like everything was perfectly normal. Like they hadn't just, Dad? Emma's voice snapped me back. Why won't they let us on the plane? Something in me just broke. Mom, I said, and my voice was deadly calm now. Are you seriously telling me you left us behind from the trip I paid for? Beth sighed like I was being dramatic. Kevin, don't be like this. We'll see you when we get back. I don't even remember hanging up. Just stood there in the middle of O'Hare, gripping my phone while people bustled around us with their rollaway luggage and their coffee cups and their normal fucking lives. Emma's hand was getting sweaty in mine, but she wouldn't let go. Did we miss the plane? Her voice was so small. I looked down at her, and man, seeing her trying so hard to be brave just about killed me. She'd been talking about this trip for weeks, had the whole thing planned out in her little notebook. Come on, sweetheart, I managed to say. Let's get some breakfast. We found this diner near the airport. Emma just stirred her hot chocolate, watching the whipped cream dissolve. Didn't even touch the chocolate chip pancakes I ordered her, and Emma never turns down chocolate chip pancakes. Then she looked up at me with Amy's eyes and asked, Dad, did they leave us because they don't love us? I'll tell you right now, that question hit me harder than anything Beth or the others had ever done. Because how do you explain to a 6-year-old that her own grandparents, her aunt, her cousin, they all just... I couldn't even finish the thought. No, baby, I said. Sometimes people just make really selfish choices. But you and me? We're a team. Always. She nodded. But I could see she didn't really believe me. And right then, something inside me changed. Like a switch flipped. I opened my banking app and started scrolling through my automatic payments. First to go, the $2,200 monthly transfer to Beth and Ron's account. For bills, they always said. Yeah, right. More like for that brand new SUV they somehow needed last year. Next, Jake's daycare payments. $800 a month that Mel had convinced me to take on just until she got back on her feet after her divorce 2 years ago. Then the smaller stuff, their Netflix account that they shared with like 5 other people, Spotify family plan, Beth's phone bill, the subscription boxes Mel had somehow gotten me to pay for. One by one, I canceled every single thing. My hands were shaking, but not from anger anymore. It was like relief, like I could finally breathe properly for the first time in years. My phone started blowing up almost immediately. First was Beth. Kevin, there seems to be a problem with this month's transfer. Then Mel. Hey, the daycare just called. Something wrong with your card? I put my phone face down on the table and looked at Emma. Hey, sweetheart, want to go somewhere fun? She glanced up, still sad, but a little curious. Where? How about Disneyland? Her eyes got huge. Really? Really, really. We can fly to Orlando right now if you want. Just you and me. The way her face lit up, man, I wish you could have seen it. She literally bounced out of her chair and hugged me so hard I almost spilled my coffee. While we were getting ready for our new adventure, I finally checked my phone. 27 missed calls, 42 messages. Not a single one asking if we were okay or where we were. Just panic about the money. Beth, Kevin, call me right now. Your father is very upset. Mel, you can't just stop paying without warning. Ron, son, this behavior is unacceptable. I booked us flights to Orlando right there in the diner. First class because fuck it. I was saving $4,000 a month anyway. Emma came back from the bathroom practically vibrating with excitement, her sadness about Naples completely forgotten. That's when Beth called again. I almost didn't answer, but I wanted to hear what she got. The money didn't come through, Beth said immediately. No hello, no how are you? Yeah, about that, I said. I'm at Disney World with Emma. Almost forgot you guys only call when you need cash. Silence. Then, Kevin, don't be like that. You know we're family. I actually laughed. Family? Is that what you call lying about flight times and leaving your granddaughter stranded at an airport? It was just a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? My voice got louder than I meant it to. Emma looked up, worried. I took a deep breath. You know what, Beth? I'm done. Have fun paying your own bills. I hung up as she was mid-sentence about how they relied on that money. My phone immediately started ringing again. Mel this time, then Ron, then Beth again. I turned it off. We spent the next 3 days doing every single ride she wanted, twice, eating way too much cotton candy, and meeting every princess in the park. Emma got her face painted 4 different times and insisted on sleeping in her Elsa dress. You know what I didn't do? Check my phone or think about the shitstorm brewing back home. It wasn't until we got back to our hotel room that third night that I finally turned my phone back on. The messages I found. I didn't even know my family could get that creative with threats. While scrolling through what feels like a million messages, my phone starts ringing with some number I don't recognize. Hello, is this Kevin? Some guy with this super formal voice. I'm representing a concerned party regarding some financial matters involving your family members. I almost laughed. Almost. Like, they actually went and got a lawyer? He goes on about how my abrupt cessation of financial support has caused significant distress to my family members, and how they're hoping to resolve this matter amicably. That's when I lost it. Let me get this straight, I said. They're trying to legally force me to keep paying their bills? Bills I was paying voluntarily? He cleared his throat all uncomfortable and said something about established patterns of support and reasonable expectations. I asked if they were really trying to sue me for not giving them my money anymore. Silence. Then, well, we're hoping to avoid litigation. Good luck with that, I said and hung up. Over the next few days, while Emma and I were living our best Disney life, the messages just kept getting crazier. Beth tried the health angle. Your father's blood pressure is through the roof from all this stress? Is this what you want? Mel went for guilt. Jake keeps asking why he can't go to daycare anymore. How am I supposed to explain this to him? Ron sent me this novel about how I was tearing the family apart and how they'd never forgive this betrayal. Then I get this email from Mel that really took the cake. Turns out that store I helped her buy after her divorce, the one where I paid for everything but gave her 20% ownership to help her out, she was trying to claim she owned half of it, said she had put in the work and built the business. I forwarded that one straight to my actual lawyer, not some random guy they found to make threats. He wrote back in like 5 minutes. Is she serious? Their lawyer called again while we were in line for Space Mountain. Left this voicemail about how my family was willing to discuss a reasonable payment schedule and how they were concerned about maintaining family relationships. I texted back, cool. I'm concerned about how you explain to a 6-year-old why her grandparents lied to her and left her at an airport. Let me know when you figure that one out. Never heard from him again. By day 5, Beth was getting desperate. Started posting on Facebook about how heartbreaking it is when children abandon their elderly parents. She's 58 and just bought a Peloton, but okay. My aunt called to ask what was going on, and when I told her the whole story, she just went, holy shit. Mel tried a new approach. I'm willing to forgive you for all this if you just restart Jake's daycare payments. I didn't even bother responding. The best part? They actually tried to get Sarah involved. Beth called her trying to get info about where we were, saying they were worried sick. Sarah's response? I'm sure you are, about your bank account. Then she blocked their numbers. After a week, the lawyer threats fizzled out, but the guilt trips were still coming strong. Beth's latest message says they might have to sell their SUV. You know, the one they just had to buy last year with my money? Somehow this is supposed to make me feel bad. Emma doesn't ask about them anymore. She's too busy showing everyone her Disney photos and planning which rides she wants to do first when we go back. Yeah, I already promised we'd go again for her birthday. I'm weak when it comes to Emma. The funny thing is, I actually feel lighter. Like this weight I didn't even know I was carrying is just gone. Sure, my phone's still blowing up with their drama, but for the first time in years, it's not my problem anymore. Oh, and that property deal I was working on before all this? Closed it today, from my hotel room, while wearing Mickey ears. Because that's how I roll now. And then, the cherry on top, on the way home, while waiting in line at Starbucks in the airport, I heard a familiar voice behind me. Kevin? Is that you? I turned around, and there stood one of Beth's best friends, a woman who spent more time gossiping in Facebook comment sections than actually living her life. She glanced at Emma's Minnie Mouse backpack, my Disney shopping bags, and asked, weren't you supposed to be on that Naples trip with your family? I took a long sip of my overpriced airport coffee and smiled. Oh, we were supposed to go, I said, stretching like I just had the most relaxing vacation ever. But Beth gave us the wrong flight info, so we had to book something else last minute. Ended up at Disney instead. Emma, show her your princess dress. The woman gasped. Beth never mentioned that. Huh, weird, I said, deadpan. Anyway, gotta go, our Uber's here. And just like that, I let the neighborhood gossip machine do its job. Coming home from Disney was weird. Like that feeling when you wake up from a really good dream and reality starts creeping back in. Emma was still on cloud 9, but I knew the shit was about to hit the fan. Didn't expect it to happen literally as we were walking up to our apartment, though. Beth and Ron were sitting on the steps outside our building. I didn't know they were going to come back this early from their vacation. They were just waiting there. Beth jumped up the second she saw us, calling out, Kevin, like nothing had happened, like she hadn't just abandoned us at an airport a week ago. Ron just stood there with his arms crossed, trying to look intimidating, I guess. We need to talk, Beth said, trying to block our path to the door. Her voice had that fake sweet tone she uses when she's trying to manipulate someone. No, we really don't. I moved to step around them, but Ron stepped in front of me. Don't act like this, he growled. We're family. I looked him dead in the eye. Family? Is that what you call leaving your granddaughter stranded at an airport? Beth tried to cut in. That was just a misunderstanding. If you'd just let us explain. Explain what? How you're struggling to pay the mortgage? They exchanged this nervous look, and I knew I'd hit the nail on the head. Yeah, that's what I thought. This isn't about family. It's about money. How dare you? Beth's voice went up like 3 octaves. After everything we've done for you? Done for me? I couldn't help laughing. Where were you when Amy died? When I was working myself to death trying to raise Emma alone? When she was crying for her mom at night? Silence. They just stood there, looking uncomfortable. The only time you started caring was when my business took off. When I had money to give you. That's not family. That's just using people. Ron's face went all red. You watch your tone, boy. I'm still your father. No, I said quietly. You're just some guy who sent a sympathy card when my wife died and then showed up asking for money. If you walk away now, Ron's voice was cold, don't ever expect us to be there when you need us. I actually laughed at that. When have you ever been there when I needed you? Beth started crying, fake tears. Her mascara wasn't even running. How can you say that? After all we've done. Name one thing, I challenged her. One thing you've done for me or Emma in the last 3 years that didn't involve taking my money. More silence. Emma's grip on my hand got tighter. Ron's face went from red to purple. You ungrateful little shit. Don't ever call us again? That's the best thing you've ever said to me, I replied, and pushed past them to unlock our door. As we went inside, I heard Beth start to say something else, but I just closed the door. Done. Over. Emma was quiet for a minute, then asked in this small voice, Are they mad at you? I knelt down to her level. A little. But you know what? That's okay. Sometimes people get mad when you stop letting them treat you badly. She nodded like this made perfect sense. Kids are smarter than we give them credit for. Then asked, Can we put our Disney pictures up now? And just like that, we moved on. Started our new life without their drama, their guilt trips, their constant demands. It's been a month now, and honestly, we're happier than we've been in years. Sarah still comes over daily, but now she's more like family than a nanny. Emma's doing great in school, and I just landed another big property deal. Life's actually pretty good when you're not bankrolling other people's bullshit. But the best part? I didn't just cut them off. I got my damn money back. A few weeks after everything went down, I sat down with my lawyer and went through every single transaction. And you know what we found? They owed me way more than I thought. Mel's daycare bills, her car payments, that storefront I paid for but she suddenly thought was hers? Yeah, she had to hand it over. Turns out, when you're dumb enough to let someone else foot the bill for years, but never put anything in writing on your end, it doesn't exactly work out in your favor. Beth and Ron, that mortgage I'd been covering, I legally reclaimed my stake in the house. They either had to buy me out or sell it, and guess what? They couldn't afford to keep it. And they had to sell their SUV. Not my problem anymore. So now, the family leeches who treated me like their personal ATM, Mel's working 2 jobs. Beth and Ron moved into a rental. And me? I took every single penny I got back and put it into Emma's college fund. No lawyers, no screaming matches, just cold, hard consequences. Sometimes the best family is the one you choose, not the one you're born with. Edit. Holy shit, this really blew up. Thanks for all the support, guys. Emma says hi and wants everyone to know she's a Disney princess in training now.